After that wonderful introduction on why and what we need to write from Africa, thank you so much. That was an incredible session, Africa. We will now move into the more practical side of writing a book. Still, before we even put pen to paper, or in our cases, keyboard to screen, we need to give thought to the structure and the content of our book. And even, dare I say, do a bit of research, possibly. Now, I know that many of you, there are quite a lot of pastors here and theological people, so the word research might actually make you feel quite excited. But for me, the research has always been quite intimidating. So I am actually really looking forward to this session on how to break this down into a manageable task. And I am thrilled that the person to bring the session to us is a friend of mine and a fellow MAI-Africa trustee, Lawrence Darmani. Lawrence was actually the MAI trainer that I first encountered in the writing seminar that I attended in the Cape in 2012. And he gave me great input on my manuscript at that time. So I have no doubt that his experience and his wealth of knowledge on the writing and publishing will really bless us today. Lawrence Darmani is a novelist and a publisher. He is the founding editor of Step magazine and the CEO of Step Publishers in Accra, Ghana. Step Publishers supplies books to the Ministry of Education, senior high schools, non-formal education, Ghana Book Trust, and other institutions. Lawrence's first novel, Grief Child, won the Commonwealth Writers' Prize in 1992 as Best First Book from Africa. He has written over 20 titles for adults and 25 titles for children. He also writes devotional articles for Our Daily Bread. He holds a BA in Communications from Daystar University in Kenya, an MA in Communications from the University of Ghana, and he lives in Accra with his wife, Comfort. Before we hand over to Lawrence, I just want to invite our online participants to ask questions towards the end of the session by using the question option on the control panel. And we will try to get Lawrence to answer as many of the questions as we can. And for people in the venue, we will probably just do the roaming mic thing again. So I hand over to you, Lawrence. Thank you so much.
All right. Good morning, everybody. And greetings from Accra in Ghana, where the weather is warm. And I say this carefully because I know you're in the cold season there in South Africa. But I do remember times when I have been in South Africa a couple of times. And I still have fond memories of my time there. So I want to thank every one of you for the opportunity to be at this seminar. And I'm quite excited to be able to join you. So my okay. I hope I was heard earlier on when I was introducing myself and introducing the topic. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to join you there in South Africa. I was just saying that it's quite warm here in Accra, Ghana. And having spent some time there in South Africa before in previous workshops. I find it quite interesting, and I want to thank the Lord for the opportunity to share this time with you. All right. So our topic is planning your content, book structure, and research. Okay. I hope I'm doing well there. All right, thank you. Now we are talking about planning your content, book structure, and research. I want to say from the very onset that for the participants, both in South Africa and watching us elsewhere and participating from elsewhere, to make this seminar an opportunity to pursue a writing project. Okay. Our topic for discussion, we are looking at the content, the structure, and research. Now, the first point I want to make is that it is very important to look at the content. The content is the superstructure of your book. Okay. Now, the content is the message you want to communicate to your readers. And it is very important to ask yourself whether this content is strong, it is appealing, and it is scratching where the readers itch. Now, this calls for the need for clarity of expression. In other words, look at your content as very critical and very important. It is important that you write not only what you want to have or to enjoy, but what others need to understand. John Rogers said, if you can't say it clearly, then you don't understand yourself. So clarity of expression, when you are putting your content together, is very critical. Okay. Now, that calls for the interest of the publishers. It is very important also to understand that as you are thinking about your book and putting your book together and writing your book, that you are qualified to write on the topic. Earlier when I was listening to Africa, as he mentioned that you've got to be writing what you yourself really understand. And therefore keep the publishers in mind, because eventually you are going to give your work to a publishing house to publish. And it is because of precisely this that publishers work with writers, and writers should also have the publisher in mind. Sometimes if you think of writing a book for a particular publishing house, or you're just writing generally, that it is important for you to know what the publisher is thinking about. That's why a lot of time you've got to query or get in touch with a publisher to make sure that your work is in tune with what they want to publish. Of course, it is not every time that you will have to seek the publisher's approval, before you write what you are writing. But invariably, it is critical that you know that your book will have to be published by somebody, and that person should be interested in what it is that you are writing. Okay, so that is part of the idea of the interest of the publisher that you have to have in mind. All right, now your content is impacted or informed by a number of things, issues your readers are struggling with. Now, what are the issues that the church is struggling with today? You know your experience, you know your people, you know what is happening in your country. So it is critical that you keep your readers in mind. Now you are developing content, and the readers are the critical partners in what you are writing. Of course, we write what we like to write. We write what we enjoy from ourselves and from our experiences. But it is important to know that somebody will have to write. We write so others will benefit from what we are writing. And then you are impacted, your content is impacted or informed by your knowledge of the subject. It is not far from saying, if you do not know your subject, then how can you be writing about it? You do research, and then it is also impacted by your experience. Your experience is what you have gone through, and whether we like it or not, experience is part of our lives, and we bring that experience into our writing. We are also, our content is also impacted by the research material. Now we'll be talking a little bit more about research. Now the fourth point about understanding the importance of your content is that your topic and its contents must be important and relevant. See, you are writing a manuscript. How important is it? And if it is important, how relevant is it to the people that you are writing for? See, so that is part of the idea that goes into developing your content. There will be a lot of ideas that will come to you, and you need to juggle these ideas about and find out whether which of them is more important and that which you want to, which is also relevant for you to write about. It must be critically important because the church is going through so many issues. And while pastors like yourselves have been called to preach, writers have also been called to document, to write for the teeming populace of the church. Okay, so it must be important, it must also be relevant. Now, I would like to, as an example, give some issues. Some important and relevant issues confronting the church today. You may want to add to it. I intended this to be interactive as much as possible, and so I would have loved to hear a couple of you tell us what you think is important for your church today. But just look at these examples. We have responsible church membership, okay? People are members of congregations. How do they view it? Faith and hope in times of crisis. And I tell you, the world is in crisis today. What is the faith that we can use to up our hope in such times of crisis? And families go under crisis, church members go on crisis, and so on. Now, the Christian journey is a narrow way, all right? If you are writing a book, do you see that as important, as relevant? And how is the Christian journey going to be like? Now, this one is a broad topic, and you might want to just pick up one of the issues and then write about. Storing up treasures in heaven. How about conquering the fears of life? And the all-time important, taming the tongue. Okay? A few others are the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes. Effective succession plans in Christian ministries. Honoring the marriage bed. The challenge of leadership. Parenting today's youth. Morality, integrity as a way of life. And then enriching your personal devotional lives. Now, this is just examples of important and relevant topics that you may want to be thinking about. One of the most important callings for every writer is the ability to determine the content you want to write and to determine how important it is. There are so many of them, and readers are expecting that people who are called to write will be able to juggle through all these maze of topics that are available, and then to be able to pick out what is important. Of course, important to you, the writer, relevant to the readers. Now, I want us to look at developing your content. How do we develop our content? Right, first point, develop your content from the point of view of what the Bible says. What does the Bible say about the issues you are writing? Are you rightly dividing the word of truth? Okay, so you are developing your content, no matter what it is that you are writing. Think about it from the point of view of biblical perspectives. Now, as pastors, as Christian leaders, this is almost a given, but we need to have it in mind. Now, you know that you are writing, at the time you are writing, you're actually analyzing your topics. You're looking at the issues and the issues that concern the readers. You're exploring, you're investigating, you are breaking down your topic into capsules and bits and pieces in such a way that it will be easy for readers to consume. So develop your content by analyzing. Have an analytical mindset, which means you've got to go deeper on every subject that you are writing about. And that is what is informing the need for research. And we'll be coming to the point of research. But we just want to make the point that be analytical, analyze, explore, investigate a topic, and then break it down into segments and the units that will easily be understood by your readers. So you're analyzing. Now develop your content by asking questions and providing answers. Whether you know it or not, whether you are conscious about it or not, every time you begin to write, you are invariably asking questions and then providing answers. Okay? If you're asking about, if you're writing about taming the tongue, so many questions are coming there. What questions would you ask about taming the tongue, for example? Okay? And journalists have the 5 W's and the H. Now, the 5 W's and the H are methods of writing and analyzing and providing information for readers. Journalists use it a lot, but this is all forms of communication, even for us who preach. Every time you are giving a message, you are invariably asking questions. And some of these questions are easy to understand. Others are very important. You have to analyze them. Now, for example, if we were to apply the 5 W's and the H on the topic taming the tongue, and by the way, you may not write all these things down, but the issue is that at the end of the day, your content will have to be answering questions as to what happened, why did it happen, where is it happening, who may be affected by it, and when are the best times. For example, what circumstances are we dealing with when we talk about taming the tongue? So you begin to write that. It is part of your content. That's part of the structure of the content of your book. Why does the tongue need taming? And where, as in various situations, does the tongue become poisonous? I mean, we all know the effect of the lips. When the Word of God says that our tongues carry both life and death. Okay, who may be affected by a tamed tongue or an untamed one? You cannot write on taming the tongue as a book to help us to make our words seasoned with salt as we are being encouraged by the book of Colossians without answering these questions. When are the best times to tame the tongue? At what time? Is it when you are angry? All right. But you know that when we are angry, for example, that is the time we talk a lot. And my father once told me, anytime you are arguing with somebody, do not say everything that comes to your mind. I have always remembered this. And I have seen my father walk away from various arguments at times when we thought that he was expressing weakness, whereas he was actually expressing strength, overcoming his own temperament. Okay? How does an extrovert, one who has the natural penchant desire to talk, how does such a person control his tongue? So you see, you can apply the 5 W's and the H on practically every subject that you are writing about in order to be able to get to the core of the subject you are developing. And that's all part of developing the content. Content is critical. The whole idea about writing is to develop a content that will stand the test of time. And what we are doing right now is simply trying to make us understand what is contained in the content and how do you develop it. And we are saying use the 5 W's as questions and the H also as questions. You may want to apply this to some kind of thing that you are writing. All right. Now, you develop your content by sharing opinions on the subject, yours and others. Now, opinions are personal views, and your personal views are very important because, after all, you are the author. And it is what you know, what you think about, what you are so passionate about that are forming your opinions. And your personal understanding of what others are saying. Now, remember that the content is really an accumulation of your own views and experiences and those of others. When you write a book and then you keep on developing the book from beginning to the ending without bringing in the thoughts of others, even those ones that you want to disagree with, then it is as if you are saying that you hold the answers to all of the issues involved in the topic you are discussing. And readers don't even like that. Readers like it when you bring opinions from other people. And this is what is giving credence to research. So research, you are looking for information that you are bringing in. Now, your opinion. Jesus said, store up treasures in heaven. Now, what is your own personal opinion about that? So you develop your content by sharing opinions on the subject. If you didn't have any opinion at all, then you did not have any message to give to your people, right? Now, develop your content by giving examples to support or reinforce your point. Examples is the key word there. Examples, writing narratives, right? And pastors like yourselves, Christian leaders like yourselves, teachers like yourselves, know the importance of bringing in examples. Examples bring in flesh and blood. Remember, the word became flesh, came and dwelt among us. So the Lord had words to give to us, and the way to do it was to give the word up and make it flesh, came and dwelt among us, full of grace. Now, examples also are true stories and parables and experiences, events. These are examples that you are bringing onto the content. Preachers know that every time you are talking and you bring in an example, suddenly you wake up sleeping congregants, suddenly you put laughter into people's hearts or tears, depending upon the example you are bringing. People like to have examples These are true stories, parables, experiences, and events that you want to bring to bear in your content. Develop your content by giving examples, okay? Now, you know, the assumption here is that we are writing non-fiction, right? We are writing non-fiction. But it will amaze you, for those of you who also write fiction, that examples are inevitable in even fiction, okay? You can have a character in fiction tell a story. Now he's bringing a story from the character's own background to bear on the story. That is an example, okay? And a character can begin to tell all kinds of experiences that they have gone through, right? So whether for developing the content of fiction or the content of nonfiction, we are talking about the importance of examples. So you see, when you are doing your research, you are looking for examples, you're looking for stories. Africa had, somebody had mentioned Dr. Ward Mills, one of our pastors here in Ghana, who is also an apostle for the whole world. And he talks a lot about his content. He has written so many books and he has a lot of examples. He hardly preaches without giving examples, okay? Develop your content by adding local color. And here is where I really love. When I began to read books, one of the things that I quite just, I don't know whether it challenged me or it kept me thinking, or but every time I read books from the USA or Canada or Britain, it is as if the authors do not know or don't care that some readers of their books are in Africa, in India, in Malaysia, wherever, okay? They will always tell stories from their own countries, okay? So when I was asked to write Our Daily Bread, I was determined that I would constantly refer to issues and people, our culture, our environment, the food we eat, the clothing, the history, the trees and things like that. Those are local color. Now, Africans have a problem. One problem is that we like everything coming from the West, okay? In Ghana here, we like food from the West. We like our clothes are always like the West. We like to even talk like them. We use slangs. Now, I'm saying, when you are developing your content, just be conscious of the need to add local color. Okay, local color, your geography, your clothing, your food. You know, where I'm sitting here, I'm looking through my window and I can see a lot of trees. And I can see a plantain that is growing out there. I know about our weather. I say it is warm. And Paul Isana about your cold weather. But add local color. It doesn't matter whether they understand it. And that's one of the things I really love about our brothers from Nigeria. You just, whenever you go to a conference and Nigerians come there, look at them. They are wearing their local clothes. They have their local, attires, and they don't care too much what you think. But the point is that it is important to remain who we are. And Africans, we have a lot of content to share with the world. We have a lot of stories. We have a lot of proverbs. We have a lot of happenings, good happenings, not only the bad ones, all right, that we can share with the world. And you have no idea where your book is going to land, right? Your book might be landing in faraway places, and let those people there also remember or know about Africa. You see, I took a bit of time here. It just tells you I'm very passionate about that. Add local color to what you are writing, okay? You have mountains, you have rivers, our geography, and so on. All right, develop your content from your sermons and talks. Now, I've published several books for my pastor, and all that he did was do a 1 week of revivals and talks and preachings, a seminar. And then after that, he put the whole talks together. We asked him to speak on the what we believe, right? The Apostles' Creed, for example. We gave him 1 week to speak about the Apostles' Creed, to explain the content of the Apostles' Creed. And then after we recorded his talks, and then we transcribed it, and then we gave the script back to him to add and subtract, and then and so on. And so great content emanates from pulpits by the anointing of the Holy Spirit. Record your spoken words, rewrite and restructure them into a book. That is just especially for those of you who preach a lot. Do not waste those sermons, quote unquote waste. You have not wasted them. What I mean is that gather them into books. Right? The Lord has told prophets, write the thoughts, write your messages, write your... Sometimes you ask yourself, by the way, King David, at what point did he record all those Psalms and the Proverbs and the rest of them? Even if he asked somebody to record for them, or he spoke them out, and then people recorded them or wrote them. So we can write a book, and we can also speak a book. We can write a book, and you can also speak a book. A sermon is not the same as a written piece of work, but I tell you, it provides the basis. It provides the platform or the foundation or the structure for building on. Do not just give your sermons only to live audiences, but find a way to transcribe them. No, that means that you have to record them. And nowadays, our smartphones can record messages. Some messages come to us when we are preaching that will never be captured again unless we recorded them. All right, so develop your content through your sermons and talks. I thought I should add this bit because we've seen so many books come out. In fact, some of these books that we said that Ward Mills has written, he may have sat down to write some, but I want to believe that some of them also, he spoke them into being. All his teachings may have been gathered into books and then later on formatted to as a content. Okay? Now develop your content by being passionate about your topic and the book you are writing. The operating word there is passion. When you are passionate about anything, you are more likely to devote your time and energy to it. Desire always generates passion, that one you know, and passion produces action. Be passionate. I mean, this half-hearted, I want to write, I don't want to write, I've started a manuscript, I have abandoned it. I am writing this week, I don't visit my manuscript again for the next 1 week, for the next 2 weeks. Somebody said the other day he has spent about 20 years to write one book, and I don't know what I don't know the point he wanted to make. But if you abandoned your project for 5 years before you came back to it, you subtract all of those and then measure the actual amount of time that you have used to do this. I believe the Lord has given me a new book to write. It is called Letters, but I call it Free Indeed, and the subtitle is Letters to the Prison. I have about 20 chapters I'm writing, or up to about 25. I'm mentioning this because I have so much passion for this particular topic that it just, as the Lord grants me strength and life, it is something I really want to do. I am so passionate about it. I want to, we have letters that have been written from prison to the world, from prison to the world. Paul wrote so many letters coming from prison. But how about a letter going to the prisons? And one time I received a letter from Japan. Somebody had read my article in our daily bread. And because the person comes from Nigeria and he was in prison over some problems that he encountered, he thought Ghana and Nigeria were so close, we are brothers. And therefore, let me write to this brother and tell him. And then he wrote a letter to me explaining and expressing himself and the difficulties that he was in and the troubles that he was in and how he had disappointed his family and so on, and what he was just going through, the pain in his heart. So I wrote a letter back to him, just simply giving him encouragement and the word of God, and the fact that even prison life is not the end of life, quoting examples like Joseph was in prison, and of course, Nelson Mandela, and this is South Africa, and he's also an icon here, and all his prison experiences. Now, when he wrote back to me after he received this letter, is what gave me the feeling that we need to write letters to prisons. So I'm so passionate about it. I'm saying, please, whatever it is the Lord has given you to write, be passionate about it. I'm sure when I was listening to our brother Africa presenting his paper and the encouragement that he was offering, and I could just almost touch the passion with which he was speaking. And I wish I could also look at some of his books, and I believe that he would have translated that passion into his books. When you are that passionate, you will finish your project. But if you let your content that you are developing becomes half-hearted, you are happy today, you are not happy about it tomorrow, now you will easily abandon it. And I am passionately saying this because I don't want you to abandon your project. I hope, by the way, I did ask that everybody should come to the seminar with a seminar project, either something you've been working on before or something you are just about to develop. My hope is that everybody should make something of practical experience from this seminar. Don't go home and just forget about this one-day seminar. All right, you see how passionate I've been about this? I've spent too much time on it. All right, let's go to the next one. Now, think and pursue quality. This one is critical. Many important and relevant manuscripts have been left unpublished because of mediocrity. Mediocrity is where you don't put too much thought into what you are writing, you don't research it well, you don't give so much time to it, and then you do it just anyhow. Now, anyhow writing, and like somebody has said, what you write without the quality application to it will also be read without interest. Quality is what the Lord requires of us. Now, quality is the product of hard work. So we need to inject quality in whatever we are developing. The content we are developing should come out of quality. Now, quality is the product of hard work, because quality means do it again, do more research, think, find out, read more about it, right? And then learn from others. The note there, though, is that beware of the unguarded pursuit of perfection. Somewhere along the line, you've got to finish your work. You've put in as much energy, as much thought, as much interest in it, and hard work. When you finish, you are finished, you are done, all right? But the idea of quality is very critical, and we need to look at it. I've looked at several manuscripts in my life, and I realized that there are two types of writers. Those you can see who made a lot of interest in writing and producing quality work, and those who didn't care. Somebody will bring your manuscript and say, oh, you edit it for me. I tell them, editors find it easier to reject manuscripts than to cut it, okay? So editors will edit, but I tell you, editors they are human beings. They are more interested in a manuscript that they know authors have put a lot of work in. They themselves are human beings, they are readers and they enjoy it. So if you write and produce quality content, you are more likely then to attract editors who are very, very interested in what we have written. And then of course, it gives them less work to do, and it will also be a blessing to the readers, okay? All right, now, what you are achieving with your content. See, content is really the superstructure of the book. It is what is inside, the quality piece of work. Your content is providing the following benefits to your readers. Why should somebody read your book if they are not, it is not going to benefit from them? So when you are developing your content, these are some of the benefits that you are injecting into your content. You are giving instruction, you are giving information, you are challenging people, right? You are encouraging them. So your content has all these ingredients. It's providing knowledge, it's a guidelines, you are giving guidelines to some people. When you write about taming the tongue, what are you saying? You're encouraging the people, you are providing encouragement, but you're also challenging them how to use the words that come out of our mouth. You are providing truth, okay? You are also explaining things to the readers and providing solution. Anytime you write, please add humor, some form of entertainment to your writing. We all enjoy entertainment. Preachers who know how to appropriately entertain their congregants or their audiences, you know, get their attention, see? So look at what you have written and ask yourself, I mean, it's so hard. There are people, many people are going through difficulties, my brothers and my sisters. They like a little smile on their faces. They like a little joy in their hearts. Humor is part of the content. And if you have written a manuscript, I want you to go back and ask yourself, this thing I've written, where is humor? Am I entertaining, or I've just given them the hard stuff without some bit of entertainment? So that's also very important to know. All right. So that was our third point there on developing the content, what you're achieving with your content. Have I provided instruction, information, challenging? Have I encouraged people? Okay, and the rest of them. So you have the outlines to have it. All right. Now let's go to the structure of the book. Fourth point on the subject. Now, the composition and arrangement of content is the structure, and it must appeal to the writers. So you have produced your content, various information given, you have solutions, you have those things that we mentioned earlier on. You have instructions, you have made provision, you have explained all these things. Now, you are now left with the point of arranging this content in a structure that will be interesting, that will be enjoyable. So even though you may have excellent content, let your arrangement also be that excellent. Now, thank God for editors. Editors help us in the structuring once the content is good. Of course, after working with editors, I think that's one of the things that every writer must be told. When you meet an editor, and you must have an editor who is helping you to structure your work, you've got to listen to them. I've given an example of, you all know Chinua Achebe. Chinua Achebe from the late Chinua Achebe from Nigeria, with his classic Things Fall Apart. When he wrote the manuscript, it actually contained Things Fall Apart and his second book, No Longer at Ease, one big book. But when he presented it to the publishers, the editors looked at it and said, listen, Chinua Achebe, this is excellent part 1 and part 2. You have 2 books here, but not 1. Now, he was humble enough. That man, by the way, was very humble. Okay? When he had an accident just before his passing, somebody asked him, "Oh, Chinochibe, you had an accident? Oh my goodness, how can that be?" And then he said, "What do you mean? You mean I cannot have an accident? Am I past having accidents?" You understand? He put in a lot of humor. But he was humble enough to accept the dividing of his content into two. Book 1, which is Things Fall Apart, and then book 2, which is No Longer at Ease. Those two books, in fact, Things Fall Apart is what it is, I believe strongly, because it stands on its own. If it were mixed with No Longer at Ease, chances are that it will not be able to have the kind of impact that the first book had. So, of course, you work with editors in developing your content, but when it comes to the structuring, you do your best. Okay, it must be well organized, it must be easy to follow, it must be consistent. Okay, consistent, right? All right, so with the structure, notice the well-organized structure of the Bible. That makes it easy to follow. I mean, we don't have any confusion at all when it comes to looking at the content of the Bible that we are studying every day, right? The 5 books of Moses are all there, then followed by the rest and the rest. And even then, we have the chapters, we have the titles, we have the subtitles and the verses, right? Your content will also be organized like that. We are going to look at a very critical thing, just as I bring this whole discussion to a close later on. But get your content well organized, okay? At the time you are developing the content, of course, you may be developing them independently, you know, almost haphazardly, but when you finish and you are ready to put it together, you've got to look at it and see what follows this and then get yourself properly organized. It's a matter of looking at how you want your story to follow, or your content to follow. All right. Sometimes you realize that you have topics that are closely related. Okay, topics that are closely related. Should we put them together? Others are far too long. And by the way, people don't like long chapters. You rather break them into maybe various topics and chapters and so on. Sometimes the books are in parts, and a part 1 may be following a particular order, and part 2 will be following a particular order. Now, one of my recent books called All the Way to Calvary, it just happens to be big because I was looking at the stories and the experiences of people who met Jesus. And I separated, the first point was, even though what happened to Jesus from the time he was arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane until he was crucified on the hills of Golgotha, it's a story that came after his birth and all those who interacted with him. But that becomes part 1 because that was my focus. So after that, clearly the stories for people who met Jesus and interacted with him and experienced his givings and his healings and all of that, that one came before the crucifixion. But I made it part 2 because that story could not be merged into the stories before the crucifixion, before the Passion Week, could not be merged into the ones that came during the crucifixion, you know. So your book, depending upon the situation, may be in part 1, part 2, part 3, and then follow your titles. Now, readers like short titles, short chapters, okay? And then even once you have your topic, you want to break your topic to subtopics also. As I said, look at the scriptures. The Bible is arranged in such a way. We have a chapter, we have a book, the book of John, then we have the birth of Jesus, and then even then the miracles that follow and the various items. So you, as the one doing your book, must think through this particular structure. Okay. All right. I said, look at it like a building. Here, now you see a building there. Where you are meeting now was is the finished work of an architect. All right. He had his foundation, the superstructure, several building materials that are included. All right. Now you have the concrete, steel, and the rest of it. Now that's a building sitting there. Look at it. Look at your book as such. Okay. Nobody will put a roof on the foundation, or for that matter, the windows on the roof, except for special effects. All right. So always look at it that way. Your content must follow a structure that is interesting, that is lively, that is easy, that merges from one into another. Now, while a graphic designer will design the book, the author provides the critical materials needed for a well-balanced book. That's the content development. So the structure is what you do with your content. Later on, the graphic designer will package the whole thing in such a way that it will just add to the appeal. But chronological presentation of the facts and the figures and the information is the work of the author. And you want to take a good cue about that. Okay. A book structure includes the following. You know, you have your content list, you have your forewords, you have introductions, prefaces, conclusions. Right. But you also have parts, as I was explaining earlier on. You have your sections, and your sections includes your chapters and your titles and your subtitles. These are all technical in nature. It is true, as I said, the editor can help you to do this, but you must have a grip on what you are presenting so that you know what to do. Now, you know that sometimes the topic is carrying on the title. The topic and the title are different. All right. For example, taming the tongue. What is it? It's both the topic and also the title. Taming the tongue. But you can have a different title. Taming the tongue is your subject, okay? But you need to see how it varies. Sometimes the titles are the same as the topic. Other times they are different. As for naming your book, it's the work of you. The author must have a working title, yes, but the publishers will also have their own ideas, and they'll have to discuss with you to know which one to choose. Do not be too dogmatic about your own title. Don't forget that your book is going to be sold, and the publishers know what to do with the title in order that it is sold. So don't fall too much in love with your title, that if it is suggested that you should change it, that you cannot change it. All right. Now, we are getting to the conclusion, and there's one word I want you to keep in your mind as you do the content development. Your structure, which is part of your content development, is going to be based on the outline of your content. The outline is a critical step in the structuring process of your content. And I'm saying that we will look at it when we come to the research. All right. Now we are doing the research. Develop your content by bringing in research material to supplement or enlarge your ideas. Okay. Now, people employ others to do research for them. That's fine. But I think that every author will have to also have the desire to do research. And research sometimes is a continuous thing in all our life as Christian writers. We should continue to have that old time when you have your books or you have your files containing newspaper clippings. As we go along life, we are making, we are chancing upon information, and we can bring them together in our material, in our content. But when you decide to write a book, it is important that you know that you have to do some bit of research. If you don't add other people's opinions to yours, then there is something that is not correct. You've got to bring other people's opinions. Now, when you are adding, you are looking for definitions, other people's opinions on the subject. You're looking for information. You're looking for quotations. You're looking for personality profiles, passages, facts and figures, places and events, dates and stories. See, so you are writing a book on taming the tongue. Go to the library, go on the net, go wherever, and then look for such a subject and find out what others have said about it. And as you go about it, you are looking for quotations, your personality profiles, stories, and passages and facts and figures that you need. All right. Now, sources of research information, prayer and time with the Lord. This one, I don't need to mention it so deeply. You all know that we get ideas from the Lord. And like this story, this is a book that I believe I have the passion for about writing to the prisons. I pray, even though I've started writing on it, but I pray a lot about it. I keep telling the Lord, please show me what else to do. How do I go about it? I mentioned that particular writing project before the Lord. By the way, that's the thing I do. I pray a lot about all my books. Okay? So prayer time, don't think that your content or your book can do well automatically. You see, we have put this here, but be sure that you have time with the Lord. All right, the scriptures, your Bible. Our Bible is an institution. Even secular people are using the contents and the wisdom of the Bible to write their own books. Constitutions are based on scriptures, okay? And rules and laws, the judiciary in our country, if you look at their codes, I mean, a lot of them are based on the scriptures. So we have the scriptures as a source of research information. And fortunately, as Christian people, we read our Bible every day, and therefore we are accumulating information that can also impact the books that we are writing. Now you are looking at your own experiences and personal notebooks. Write down. Africa was telling us earlier on, write your experiences down. Okay? We go about with notebooks. We go about with literal scriptures. And so that is very important. It is a calling. See, it makes it up passionate. Now, literature review is critical for academic writing. Why do you think it is so? I mean, academic writing is simply, once you have come up with your hypothesis, your hypothesis you must be supported or not supported. Where do you get information to do that? So you do literature review so that you can bring in the minds. In fact, academic writing is simply, accumulating other people's ideas and then drawing your inferences and then coming to your conclusions and so on. So we must do literature review. Otherwise, we must have the opportunity to look at what others have written. The internet is is available to us. There are some people who felt earlier on when the internet and even laptops came that this was the work of the devil. You know that mobile phones and then laptops and the internet, some people earlier thought that this is just the work of the devil. It's like the vaccination, the COVID vaccination. I don't know whether you know that in some parts of the world, including our own country here, some churches have come up with theories saying that, as I'm talking, I don't know, among you, who knows whether among you, you have people who might be thinking like that the vaccination is really the work of the white people to eliminate all Africans. Okay. So the internet is not a devil, although frankly, if you're looking for a devil, you can actually find it. If you're looking for a devil in the internet, you can find it there. So let us use it. It is for good or for evil, but we will use it for good. Just that there's a lot of trash also there on the internet, and you need to be able to decipher. You need to be able to find out what is good and what is just not good. I mean, is there. Now, formal and informal interviews. Earlier on, one of our participants said she's passionate about writing for children. Now, it will amaze you what children have in their minds. Okay, I have a book for children that I'm trying to develop called Prayers Children Pray. Now, Prayers Children Pray, how do you know how children pray? So you need to talk to children. If you are writing a book for children, you invariably just have to talk to them and find out what they think. They may not be able to analyze or have their own opinions, but they are simple faith and trust. They are so open, and you can get a lot. So interviews help us to also get our content. Okay, research procedures, the outline. Prepare an outline. The outline is the plan, the framework, and the shape of the content. Sometimes while you are writing, you can be preparing your outline at the same time. But initially, once you have your topic, break your topic down to various chapters or various thoughts, and then break the thoughts further into subtopics and to smaller units. So it is a plan, it is a framework, it is the shape of the content. So it is important to have an outline for the work that you are doing. I mean, we prepare outlines for practically everything that we do. This program, we have an outline in the form of the program outline, okay? The outline helps to control the extent of your research and also for what you're looking for. If you don't have an outline, you may find yourself just, as soon as you come across an interesting subject, you are just pursuing it and it will go outside of the scope of your material. Yes, when you're doing the research, you bring in a whole lot. And then when it comes to bringing it down or, putting your content together, then you can sort out what is important and what is not important for that particular project. Sometimes when you are doing a writing, you are doing a content. Now, let me say the way I operate. I have realized that human beings, there are so many things that worry us, that we have so many issues and ideas that come in. So I have advised that when you are on a writing project, when you determine your writing project, and remember, your writing project has come as a result of many, many days and even years of thinking through a particular process. The pre-writing, the writing, the rewriting, and all of that. So when you have a project you are working on, my modus operandi is guard against interruptions. So when an idea comes to you, write the idea down, develop it as much as you can, put down the points, but come back to your project. Because I've seen situations where people have started a project, they don't complete. Then they come and start another one, they don't complete. They set another one, they don't complete. They have so many uncompleted projects. My advice is, because there is so many ideas coming to us, we can project what we want to write and stick to it. Now, you thought the new idea that you got would be easier to follow, but you can easily go and get locked up somewhere. Now, this is not in contradiction at all with the earlier point that Africa made, that if I was writing about taming the tongue, and I realized that along the line, I'm having a serious difficulty, and if it is true, if it is workable, that you will go on to the next project and finish it. My idea is to finish the project. So if you leave out taming the tongue and you go and pick the other one, finish it. I'm against unfinished projects, all right? Whichever project you pick up, there will be difficulties on the way. I know of people who have begun a new project, they went on to a second one, then they realized that the second one was not coming, then they came back to the first one. Just whatever you do, finish it. And we are together on that point. If you are so passionate about the new one, then of course, I agree. Go on to that one, but finish it. You know what I mean? Just complete that project. Otherwise, because uncompleted content development, it benefits nobody. Just finish your project. All right. The online helps to control the extent. I've mentioned that. But you see, I've made listen, read, listen, think, and make notes bold, because it's critical for the work you are doing. So read around, listen to tapes and recordings of a particular subject. Think for ideas. Even when you believe that you have inspiration, still think. Even if you believe that this is a special grace from the Holy Spirit, think it. Think through. All right. And as for this idea of having an anointing and a Holy Spirit who has given us an idea, just aware that the Lord has also done rewriting even of his own finger writing. Some authors say their material is so Holy Spirit inspired that they cannot do anything about it in terms of developing their content. No, that's not correct. The Holy Spirit can guide us and to lead us. So anytime we have to have a way to look at the content of our material, let us give room for reshaping it. So read, listen, think, and make notes. Then, because we are talking about gathering information and material, which we will get from other people's writings, other people's thoughts, we need to avoid plagiarism. Plagiarism is literally theft. That is lifting material from elsewhere and putting it into your content and not giving a credit to it. Nowadays, there is a computer program that can detect that. They can feed your entire manuscript into a certain program, and then it will detect whether a portion of it, especially a significant portion of it, was lifted from somewhere. A lot of material is now available on the internet, so there is always the need to give credit, sources, and in fact, in some cases, you even need to obtain permission before you can even put somebody's material on in your content. That's all part of our work. I think this is not too difficult to understand why this is important. Okay, now, the outline helps with research and writing. The outline helps to break down your content into topics, subtopics, sections, and units. You see, that's the whole thing about the structure of your outline, right? And like I said earlier on, if you are doing all this outlining and you are doing the research and you're writing, that's not the time to arrange them chronologically. Just keep on writing and developing, but the last time when you have opportunity, you can then present it in the order that you have. All right. Now, the last thing we are doing before I take your questions, we are looking at sample outline, a sample outline. And the topic is responsible church membership. That is, I think, the first one that we had in the list. So you want to write about responsible church membership. How do you begin? And I'm saying break that particular topic into an outline. Prepare an outline on it. So 1, becoming a member of your congregation. All right. You're about to write responsible church membership. At least you've got to tell us, how do we become a member of our congregation? Membership criteria, registrations, documentations. There are rules and regulations, sanctions, responsibilities, and benefits. You see, so that particular line has given you the following ideas that you can have. So by breaking it into an outline, you have put the whole big subject of responsible church membership into smaller bites, in smaller units that can help you to write. In your church, how do you become a member of your congregation? Do you just walk in and out? Do you have your names written down? Are there regulations you need to follow? And so on. We are talking about responsible church membership. There are some members who feel that there's no need even to have your name on the church's register, as long as you have your name in the Lamb's Book of Life, which is in heaven. It's okay. if you keep flipping in and out of a church without having your name written anywhere. Okay. Right. Okay. So we're back. All right. Discovering your talents. You see, so you are a responsible church member. You've got to have talents. You have talents. You have gifts. You have abilities. How do you use these gifts and talents in the church as a responsible church member? Your background and your current occupation. How do those how do you put those into action in your church? Right. Don't forget that all those benefits, I mean, what do you call it, the gifts and the talents, the Lord gave them to you. All right, to be used in the church. You know how to play the drum, you know how to play the piano, you know how to sing. There are people who are so gifted with the logistics of simply even arranging chairs. They are ushers and so on. What is your background and how can you put it in your as a responsible church membership? Me, my writing as a my background as a writer made me everywhere I've gone. Lawrence, you are the secretary. You are the one who writes, and I know if I'm the one who writes, fine. My responsibility in the church is to, if they say I should be a secretary or somewhere, or I need to put something on paper, then I have a gift there, and therefore I put it to bear. Some people can sing until tears are flowing out of your eyes. All right, that's their gift. Joyce Meyer said, she's a talker. One time he tried singing and just didn't work. So to be able to be a responsible church member, all right, then you know what you can do and what you cannot do. Great. You know how to talk to people and encourage them like Barnabas. If your gift is encouragement, but you cannot sing, why are you jealous about somebody else who can sing? The Lord has given us various gifts. I mean, you are writing these things and it will come to bear. All right, regular and punctual church attendance. That's responsible church membership, right? So you write it down. You are just developing the outline, okay? So develop an outline for your book. What causes lateness and absenteeism? Because you're talking about regular and punctual church attendance, okay? What happens if you don't show up? All right. Are you the kind who can reach out to new members? Maybe that's your gift. So your regular and punctual at church is also helping you. All right. Then you can write about relating with other members of your congregation, associate with all persons. Paul said, associate with the lowly, okay? When a brother or a sister falls or backslides. So that is your relationship with other church members and how you can help to build the church. So responsible church membership, these are the breakdowns. Tithing, offerings, and money matters. Okay, what does the Bible say about these matters? I know somebody in our church who says he doesn't believe that tithing is even something we should do because we are in a new dispensation. Because we are in a new dispensation, and tithing was like for the Old Testament. And then Joyce Meyer will ask you, if while the Old Testament guys were under law and they were giving 10% or thereabout, how about those of us under grace? Shouldn't we be giving more? I met a guy who believed that he didn't, after giving, it was not part of his DNA. Then I said, all right, you know what? Do you think it is okay to give? Tithing is what he felt was not right for us. Then I said, okay, then let's change the name. All right, let's change the name from tithing to something that is more comfortable. Is that okay for you? And then he looked at me, laughed, and then I got to know that his problem is not about tithing. It's just about not wanting to give. Anyway, that's a different story. Okay. Now, loyalty and disloyalty in membership. Disloyalty and disloyalty. If you are talking about responsible church membership, you may want to address this issue. And I tell you, Bishop Darky Ward Mills, that we mentioned earlier on, has a whole teaching on loyalty and disloyalty for church members. I probably picked this thing from his ideas. So how do you know you are showing signs of disloyalty? What if you don't relate well with your leaders and so on? Okay, then listening to sermons. If you're a responsible church member, you've got to be listening to sermons and the talks and the presentations. All right. When the sermon is hard to follow, what do? Do you walk out? Do you fall asleep? When you feel sleepy at church, what do? Do you wake up or do you just get a pillow? All right. Those who sleep in church, we probably will have to bring pillows to the church, right? Okay. How do you listen and remember and recall sermons? You see, you are writing about responsible church membership. See, you are providing all this information so that whoever takes your book on responsible church membership will feel beneficial. He will feel this is beneficial to him. He will keep his book and will keep this book and keep on reading it. Responsible church membership. All right. I don't know. For all you know, there are 1,001 books on the subject already. I don't know, but you might check. All right. How about your involvement in church programs? If you are going to be responsible as a responsible church member, then you've got to be able to get yourselves involved in the programs and projects of the church. Okay. I belong to a church. We've started a new church somewhere, so we've moved to start a new church still under our district. We had some guys in the previous church who will not come to church 30 minutes after the church begins. Why? Because we had Bible studies at that time, and he doesn't want to be involved in the Bible studies. He just came for the preaching. So he just timed the time when the preaching is taking place, and that is when he comes to church. I mean, you want to address all of this. Your prayer life and your word, your life with the word of God, witnessing and so on. All right. Now, let me just conclude by saying that you have a message for the church. The Lord has called you to write. In fact, the fact that you are in this conference, either in person or by Zoom or by some other, means that the Lord has a message for you. Now, write it. Okay? Write it. And your writing will be a benefit to many people. Then let me just warn you that when the inspiration goes, and inspiration will go, the joy of coming to this work, to this seminar, the desire you had to write, you had your name on a book, and the book is not yet available, but you have your name on it. The time is coming when that whole imagination will fade away. All right. Does that mean that the whole idea that the Lord is calling you to write has come to an end? Okay. Our brother Rogers and others will be showing us the nitty-gritty of writing. But let me just add, I met a man called Jerry Jenkins. Jerry Jenkins has written over 200 books. I met him in California, and then he told me that he is able to write so many because every time he gathered his material and was ready to write, he would check into a hotel or a guest house or some form of a quiet place with all his materials and ideas and notebooks and things like that. And he would not come out of that place until he has the first draft of his book. How about that? I have a friend here called Jude Hammer. He's an apostle. He asked me to help him to write a book. And I told him about this Jerry Jenkins methodology of getting a first draft. As soon as he heard it, he took all his materials and went to a place called Hebzibah. John Most and others have come there for a conference before. It's a very beautiful conference center. And Jude Hammer, my friend, building on what Jerry Jenkins did, went there, and for 14 days, he did not come. He's already on the mountains. He did not come out of that place until he had his first draft. The Lord who has called you to write for him will help you. Okay? So when the inspiration dies down and you are not able to feel the way you wanted to feel from the very beginning, do not give up. Just continue. And the Lord who called you to write will help you also to the end. Okay. Asante sana simply means thank you in Swahili. Okay. All right, so I can take some questions.
Yes, I seem to show us.
Oh, sorry.
All right. 1, 2.
I'm hearing you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Brother Lawrence. Yeah, you served us well. Thank you so much. And everybody has the content, right? So you're able to have it when you go home as well. So we'll probably, yeah, we can take maybe for the next 15 minutes, we can maybe interact with Mr. Darmani, and then we'll go for lunch. Anyone has questions, and then I'll come next to you, and then you can ask it at this time. You can just raise your hand, and then you can ask your question.
Thank you. Do I face the camera? Okay. Thank you so much, Lawrence. In my case, I have a challenge of detail or giving too much detail or being concise. So do I just give the detail that I intended in the writing and leave it to the editor to be precise or concise, or what? Because of sometimes I have a challenge of deciding what do I leave in, what do I take out. Thanks.
Okay. Detailed writing is part of the development of the content. At the time of writing, the advice is that write as much as you can and put in as much detail as you can. But a time is coming when you will have to do rewriting. Rogers will be telling us about rewriting. Rewriting is a very important part of writing. And in fact, personally, I enjoy the time of rewriting when I take what I've written and then I begin to cut and edit and take out what is unimportant. So because indeed you cannot produce a big book endlessly, you've got to, at one point or the other, learn how to write to the point. Africa had said that even a 100-page book is good enough. A 60-page book is good enough. 110-page book, you don't have to go on and on and on and on. So yes, once you've done your outline, just tell yourself that, let's say you have an outline that has let's say 12 chapters. You can decide, since maybe you want your book to run for maybe 120 pages, you devote about 10 pages per topic, right? I mean, 10 pages or 10, the number of words for a topic. And then you just discipline yourself to, to cut and to rearrange it. Usually for a book, you don't have a lot of problem, but if it is an article, because they will tell you, we want 700 pages. I was writing a column the other day, they told me 700 pages. And then, but I wrote 1,000 words. What do? I had to go back chapter by chapter, sentence by sentence, and then rearrange and then cut off. You know, when we talk, we say so many things. Sometimes when we write so many things, but when you sit down to look at it, some paragraphs are repeated somewhere, some sentences are repeated somewhere. So the discipline of being able to, you know, write concisely is something you just have to learn how to do. It is part of the writing process. You rewrite both to add and to subtract, okay? So I think it is important that you know how to work that. When you are developing the content, clearly, yes, do write as much as you can, but I'm saying when you come down to tighten your writing, and that's another important word you need to know, that readers like tighter, more concise piece of message. If you are saying something, just say it concisely and then move on.
Okay, thank you. And the next session, Roger will even get into more detail as to the structure and the sentence writing, verbs, subject. So it might also be more helpful. I believe you have a question.
Hi, Brother Lawrence.
Hello.
I would like to know what kind of relationship do I aim for with my editor? I would like to know, do I choose, for example, an editor that is secular, as we would call, or do I choose someone who also has a similar burden on the content that I'm interested in writing? So yeah,
Okay.
what's the relationship with the editor?
Yeah. Now, the first point is that definitely establish a cordial relationship with your editor. If your editor is saying something which you do not like, because human relationship, when you get closer to people, you are bound to have different opinions. Do everything possible to remain to remain gentle and kind, because your editor is really somebody who is critical for your particular work, right? So establish a good relationship with the person, even if what they are saying, even if they are being critical, just accept their criticism. Don't swallow everything hook, line, and sinker, but at least listen to what they are saying. They may come back with suggestions. You know, there are two types of editing. There is the developmental editing, where they look at their entire material and then reshape it. Sometimes they may even bring suggestions that can be very different from what you are saying. Listen to them and then do the best that you can. But there is also the copy editing, where they now have to dot the I's and cancel the T's and so on and so forth. So work with them. Now, as to the kind of person, of course, if you have written a Christian book, then you've got to look for a Christian editor. However, your work is general writing, okay? You are using English. Sometimes you may even want to give it to an English an English person, somebody who is an English tutor or somebody. Just look at the tutorial, the English side of things. Or if you are writing in vernacular, somebody who knows the vernacular and can edit it for you. So you can look at it. You also, if your book is bordering on theology, when I wrote all the way to Calvary, I gave it to a theologian and I said, please look at this story and tell me, is there anything that is just not theologically sound? Okay, if it is not theologically sound, show it to me and then I'll make corrections here and there. So yes, if the person is a Christian, you need to work with him. If for some reason you need the technical aspect, the English, the grammar, you know, then anybody else can do it. We had an editor proofreader who became a Christian later on, because he told us that every time he read our manuscript and he was going to edit it and then do the proofreading, the material got into him. You know, he finally became a Christian because what he was reading and editing were the thoughts of the Lord. So yes, have a good editor, relate very well with him, listen to what they are saying, work with them. It's a question of back and forth, because the editor also doesn't have the final word for what you are writing. There's a need for you to share ideas. If they tell you something you don't like, don't just brush it aside. Suggest to them what can be done.
Lawrence, we just have a question coming online from Unati. Yeah. He says, how do I decide on the right publisher when you get 4 offers from different publishers? How do you decide on the right publisher?
You mean, has he got several publishers wanting his piece of work, or does he
It's not like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so the decision is his or hers. The question is, which of all these publishers would you really want to be the publisher of your book? Some publishing houses may have the right kind of credibility. And I'm sitting here wanting to send a manuscript to a publishing house in the USA. I'm looking at them. If the publisher were the publisher of my work, how would I feel? All right. If you think that publisher may not have a lot of credibility, maybe look at them. And by the way, one of the things that every writer must do is to try to know about publishing houses. Just go into their website, look at a long list of what they have published. Sometimes you can even visit the editor, talk generally, and just make some form of your own informed opinion about a publishing house. It should be a blessing to have many publishing houses wanting to publish your book. In fact, the difficulty really is not having any at all. But even if you don't have any, and now you are now going to decide, put them in categories. Of all these 5 publishing houses, which of them would I want to publish my book? If it is yes for everybody, then of course it doesn't matter who publishes. But don't forget that some publishing houses are good at marketing your work. So you want to go to where your work can easily be marketed easily. Others to sell a lot. But I was very happy when our brother Africa mentioned the fact that we shouldn't make money as a foremost consideration. Okay, although of course you want to make profit for your next work. So decide on what you want. The decision remains with you. Look at their background. Do they have the kind of credibility? If they have the credibility, they are able to reach out. Look in the bookshops. Where are their books reaching out? Then you can decide on one. And I'm saying that's a good problem, because if you have many publishing houses wanting to use your book, that's a good one. The bad one is when you don't have anybody interested in your work at all.
Thanks, Lawrence. That's great. I would just ask from my side, how do we develop readership? You know, what can we do to develop a reading culture? That would be just a question that I would like answered from your side. It might be the last question we get a chance to ask. So thank you.
Okay. There are 2 questions actually in what you just asked. How do you develop a following? How do you make yourself into a kind of a brand that people like to follow? And then as for general reading, how do you, even if they don't follow you, how do you develop people to write? Again, we are working with various formats. First of all, you, the writer, ought to be interested in the reader. Okay? I think that we should support any reading programs. It is possible for you to even organize with a supermarket or a bookshop or a school. We have had situations where we've gone to schools and then we obtain permission from the school authorities to organize mini book fairs for schools, and then seek permission also to speak to them at assembly, and then encourage them to read. Of course, you must also have your church involved. Now, where are the readers? The readers are in the church. They are in our workplaces. They are in institutions, educational institutions. And so every reader, every writer is a kind of a missionary. Okay? And I said, a book is also a missionary because books can reach where you cannot reach. So we need to get interested in the people who we are interacting with. We need to, even in your church, encourage our church to do small libraries. Sometimes even bring your books out there and encourage those people. If you talk to your church leaders nicely, you can have them to advertise your book, or you can also have your book displayed it's quite a doing. But I think that, and I'm happy you're asking this question about readers. Because I have had my books out there, it is not. I meet a lot of people who say, I read your book and all of that. But there are times when we may also have to carry our books with us and literally get them to the people to sell them. Okay, so it's not on a very large scale, but it is rather one reader at a time, a couple of readers at a time in your church, in your workplace. Sometimes you can also do book launches, book signings. Now that we have the internet, I mean, you can also have a blog and then encourage people also to have your books. Every writer should be part of the encouragement of getting readers to be interested in books, because we are producing something whose customers are the readers. So you who are producing a product should also have interest in the readers. Anytime you have a conference is taking place, take your books there, or get distributors to take their books there. Take my books, go and sell. 20% belongs to you if you are able to sell. And so by so doing, then we develop our reading base.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Darmani. Last question for me before we go for lunch. I believe lunch is ready. As in your extensive experience in Africa, as you've kind of interacted with a lot of authors, and what are some of the topics, or should I say the hot bed topics that we should also be thinking about on a larger scale in terms of writing for an audience in Africa? What are some of the topics that maybe will be helpful for this time, for this season, for this generation?
Let me mention biographies. Biographies continue to be very important for readers. Topics related to relationships, right? Relationships, both as in the family, as well as relationships in the workplace. How human beings relate with others is critical. It comes in various forms. It can be relationship when between spouses, relationship among workers, relationship among friends, relationship among co-workers. It's also very critical. Then the other thing I've realized is personal development. People like to enhance their capabilities and abilities. That is why we have some of these motivational books selling: how to look good, how to how to make money. You know, I'm laughing because there is a story of a guy who wrote a book called How to Make Money. And then he couldn't get anybody to publish it. And then he decided he would look for money to publish it. And he was never able to publish it because he didn't find the money. So you wonder then what was in the content, was it applicable? But anyway, self-help. Okay, people like to know how to make it in life. Now there is also, I don't know whether you know that the world is getting more and more difficult. How people can, we have registered a lot of suicides even among our young people in this country. And it is becoming a topic for serious discussion. Why do young people commit suicide? You know, we're doing evangelism in our church, and I met a guy, and when I spoke to him about the Lord Jesus Christ, finally, you know what he said? He said to me that, look, he's angry with God. You're angry with God? Why? Then he said, I shouldn't have been born. Hey, I said, why are you saying so? Look at me. Now I have to look for a job. I have to make ends meet. Look at where I live. You know, that kind of thing. Forgetting that once you are born, number one, it's a privilege to be born. Yes, despite the difficulties. Secondly, the Lord has given us a better place to go. All right. There is not, once you have been born, there's nothing you can do about it. Make the best out of the situation. That's why we are here to encourage you and all of that. So people are discouraged over life's issues. The crisis of our time, you know, but with COVID is a worldwide global pandemic. But I tell you, even in our local settings, there are other issues claiming our lives than. So there is the need for hope. Hope is a never-ending topic. So if you write anything about hope, people move about with the book. People like to have hope in a very difficult situations. And then, of course, one of the topics that Christians need to be encouraged about is life hereafter. Why did Jesus make John to write that we shouldn't love this world and the things that are in the world? Not that we cannot function well here, but we need to get a hope that gets us beyond the ravages of life and the hardships that we go through. Any book that encourages people to have hope, and there are quite a number of them, but I mentioned biography as a critical thing, and that must be biography telling stories of how people have made it. The list is long, but I think that we can.
Thank you, Lauren. There's just one other question. I think we've got time for one more. If you could do just 2 minutes on this one. Somebody, Naliaka just says, can you shed some light on doing outlines for memoirs and how to bring out content that benefits the reader? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Memoirs. And I was talking about biographies, autobiographies. Yes, so memoirs, you cannot write the entire life from the time you were born until the time you are an adult, okay? So you are writing an outline. When you look in your life, what are the highlights? Write them down. Your relationship with people, the work that you have done, your how you have lived yourself as a Christian, the places that you have been to. I sit here and sometimes I think about my memoirs and I think, well, I spent some time in Nairobi. What did I find there? I've traveled to this place. What did I find there? I've been writing. What did I, you know, so write them down. Write a whole long list. I mean, if you are doing memoirs that will span beyond 20 years, 30 years, you have a lot of things you want to talk about, but they are story-based. Tell stories in your memoirs. Don't just report to us what happened, but tell stories. I have a small biography for my father, and all I did was just telling story upon story upon story. So write them down. Your relationship with people, your birth, the challenges, how you relate with God, the difficulties you have had, and the joys that you have, awards you have received, and many things like that. Just look into your life and then write them down, okay? So you just the outline. So the outline just gives you where you were born and all of that. Now, of course, don't start you don't have to start your biography starting from where you were born, but at least somewhere along the line, tell us a little bit of your early years as a young person, okay? While Matthew begins with when Jesus was born, Mark did not. He just went straight telling the activities of Jesus. So the stories, right? Just look at them and the achievements and a whole lot. Yes.
Thank you very much. We're about to take break. Thank you very much, Brother Lawrence. Let's give him a round of applause. One of the
all right, so they send me a cup of tea.
Yes. I like when you said we must start our work and finish it. Don't start another work and don't finish it. You must finish it. Yeah. And that's a challenge with us as African. Even everything we do it half-heartedly and we don't finish it. We become easily discouraged. And we need that hope and passion to do things so that we can overcome. Thank you very much. We will continue. We are about to go to lunch. We will take a lunch until 1 o'clock. But before we go to lunch and we pray for lunch, the books here, this is by Brother Africa Mhlope, God, but imprisoned by culture. Freed by God, but imprisoned by culture. It's 200 ECM. You can come and then we only take cash, if not cash, debit or not debit, e-wallet to him. And also this one, a passion for position, also by him who's here. And then also it's 200. We have also another book, call it Ubuntu Pentecostalism by Mudise Muzondi. Is in Kageso. He's writing this from Azusa to Pentecostal and to even this false prophet that we have, most of them. He wrote about that. It's a very interesting book, and it's also 200. We have this one, Guyafana, also book, a story by written by Todd Cooper, and is writing it concerning those who were living in the street with drugs and all that. And Giafana is meaning that hopeless. Ksiza.